Hello, everyone, and welcome to ATU 16. We are doing the tower, the Eiffel Tower. No, but seriously, I'm just haven't really thought about this card a lot when I think about it. Like the two cards that I almost never think about when it comes to the tarot are like the Tower and the Star, and those are actually the next ones. So this one's actually going to be a bit of an interesting one for me. So I'm actually not too sure what to expect. But as far as I know, the Tower is just quarrel, combat, danger, ruin, destruction of plans, sudden death, escape from prison. And I think that just means it's the destruction of old paradigms. It's the destruction of old ways of life, living, and that kind of thing. And like the destruction doesn't actually have to be I guess violent, but it's something comes apart, and usually it means escape and all that other kind of thing, or danger, as it's sort of showing there. And I think what should be really interesting to note is when you look at that symbolism and how pei means mouth, and there's like this big belching mouth at the foot of the thing, and then there's the peace dove, and then the demiurge. That's basically the lion and or the serpent. Anyway, enough early dissection there. Let's actually get into dissecting it. So let's have a look. This card is attributed to the letter pei, which means a mouth. It refers to the planet Mars. In its simplest interpretation, it refers to the manifestation of cosmic energy in its grossest form. The picture shows the destruction of existing material by fire. It may be taken as the preface of ATU 20, the Last Judgment, i.e. the coming of a new aeon. This being so, it seems to indicate the quintessential quality of the Lord of the Aeon. I guess what we could say about that is it's the manifestation of gross form, and it's basically the idea of things to come, and things are sort of reformulating and being destroyed. And I guess when we think of like R220 over here, which is actually spirit and fire, as you can see by those little things there, that implies quite a lot. Oh, and also because spirit, like the shin, also is a tooth, and the fact that there's like a bit of an emphasis on teeth here as well, kind of interesting. Which I've just recently had to get work on my teeth done, so that probably is sort of something interesting. Anyway, we will continue. At the bottom of part of the card, therefore, is shown the destruction of old established aeon by lightning, flames, engines of war. In the right-hand corner are the jaws of Dis, belching flame at the root of the structure. Falling the tower, a broken figure of the garrison. It will be noticed that they have lost their human shape. I've heard the name Dis quite a lot. Well, who is Dis? Who is Dis? Who is Dis? The Roman god of the underworld. He is the equivalent of the Greek god Hades, and often associated with wealth and the dead. The name is also frequently used in the city of Dis in Dante's Divine Comedy as a slang for disrespect. Damn. So yeah, Dis is the underworld, and sort of, I guess, the opposite side. So because Zeus is basically like the opposite of Hades or Pluto, I guess. And it's the same sort of thing when we think about it. So the jaws of Dis, belching flames at the root of the structure, and falling from the tower are broken figures of the garrison. It will be noticed that they have lost their human shape. So I guess the best way that we could actually sort of look at that is since the underworld is actually the shadow and things like that coming forward, bringing things up. What's actually happening is the underworld actually is belching fire, hell, and it destroys the root of your structure, and it all comes down because it comes to the top. It manifests itself in that way. So that's an interesting thing to think about, I reckon, as like the underworld is actually more to do with fire more than the sun itself. sun is more airy. Or even watery even, which I find interesting. They have become more mere geometrical expressions. This suggests another and totally different interpretation of the card. To understand this, it is necessary to refer to the doctrines of yoga, especially those most widely current in southern India, where the cult of Shiva, the destroyer, is paramount. Shiva is represented as dancing upon the bodies of his devotees. To understand this is not easy for most Western minds. Briefly, the doctrine is that the ultimate reality, which is perfection, is nothingness. Hence, all manifestations, however glorious, however delightful, are stains. There you go. I was just sort of talking about this to someone today, actually. And I said, yeah, all perfection is stain. So, and all sin. So that's what it means to be born into sin. Okay, that's what it means to be born into sin. So, and in a sense, everything is sin. When in its most restriction is sin. Sin is restriction. Whatever is sin is restriction. So, if you're sinning against your will, that would mean like doing things that aren't aligned with it. And if we want to get really, really, really nitpicky, everything is sin. Movement is sin. Opening my mouth telling you about this is sin, because any kind of movement or generation is sin, and I think that's probably the biggest thing. So but briefly, the doctrine is the ultimate reality, which is perfection is nothingness, hence all manifestations, however glorious, however delightful, are stains. Yep, to obtain perfection, all existing things must be annihilated. The destruction of the garrison may therefore be taken to mean their emancipation from the prison of organized life, which was confining them. It was their unwisdom to cling to it. And yeah, that happens with a lot of people, man. Like, people cling to their shit all the time. And, and I find it interesting that I had a really weird wavy line after I did the Devil Tarot in particular. Because some people unsubscribed, some people subscribed. But obviously not everyone really liked what I had to say about the whole manifestation, about what the devil really means. And what's actually meant by a lot of it. So yeah, to obtain perfection, all things must be annihilated, including your most sacred cows. And I think one of the best things to obtaining perfection is to, slaughter your own sacred cows, in a sense. So like the Agori, for example, which are Shivaistic. One of their initiation rituals I know that's wide is like just eating beef, because cows are sacred in Hindu culture. So yeah, it's your unwisdom to cling to any of your wisdom that you think is wisdom. A false sense of wisdom, if you will. Anyway. The above should make it clear that magical symbols must always be understood in a double sense, each contradictory to each other. These ideas blend naturally with the higher and deeper significance of the card. And I think that actually is quite important, because there is a double meaning to everything. I mean, the dove and the serpent, like, they're both here, for example. One's peace and one's sort of manifestation into matter. And I think also, you know how we were talking about the devil? Like, the devil also being the savior. And there's the double meaning of that. Good fortune, ill fortune. So on and so forth. You get the idea. These ideas blend naturally with higher and deeper significance of the card. And maybe I should probably mention, like, since it's all coming from the eye, since ayin in the devil means eye, it manifests these two things here, as you can see. There is a direct reference to this card in the Book of Law. In chapter 1, verse 57, the goddess Nuith speaks, "Invoke me under my stars. Love is the law, love under will. Nor let the fools mistake love, for there is love and love. There is a dove and there is a serpent. Choose ye well." Yeah, there you go. Here, he, my prophet, hath chosen, know the law of the fortress and the great mystery of the house of God. For this reason, the ancient title today, not very intelligible, has been retained. Otherwise, it might have been called war. Actually, I think that's actually that's a very important thing here. Nor let the fools mistake love, for there is love and love. And then it immediately goes, there's the dove, which is the bringing back up to the center, and there is the serpent, that is like the descent into matter. Choose ye well. And I think the clue here is that both the dove and the serpent are acts of love. Descent into matter is an act of love, and also like the dissolution is an act of love. Love is the law, love under will. There we go. The dominating feature of this card is the Eye of Horus. This is also the Eye of Shiva, out on the opening, which, according to the legend of this cult, the universe is destroyed. Besides this, I think there's something kind of interesting about that, because like the Eye of Horus is also like what some Crowley sometimes calls his, let's just say his ring. He calls his ring the Eye of Horus. And like is the once the universe is destroyed, and I think that there's that weird idea of inversion here as well. But it's also called the Eye of Shiva. Interesting. According to the legend of the cult, the universe is destroyed. Besides this, there is a special technical magical meaning, which is explained openly only to initiates of the 11th degree of the OTO. I don't know how much I can speak about that, but like, I think like considering that's 11, I think there's a weird dick joke and anal joke just hidden into that. And you know how I was just talking about the opposite of like the Eye of Horus actually being a ring. Yeah. And just as I think about that, I've just thought about the idea of wedding bands and things like that. Interesting. Because it's phallic and it's sort of vaginal as well. And you both put one on. That is the consummation of the wedding. And the ring finger, it's the fourth one of initiation. Yeah. Sorry if I do a lot of these musings, but I think it's actually important because I don't really plan to do a lot of these videos. And I actually get a lot of new understandings just from reading through it. Okay, anyway, only initiate, which is explained openly, only initiates to the 11th degree of the OTR. A grade so secret that is not even listed in the official documents is not even to be understood by the study of the I in R215. Yeah, the devil, there you go. Which is over here. Perhaps it is lawful to mention that the Arab sages and the Persian poets have written, not always guardedly, on the subject. Bathed in effulgence of this eye, which now assumes even a third sense that indicated the R215 are the dove bearing an olive branch and the serpent, as in the above quotation. Serpent is portrayed as the lion serpent Zanubis or Abraxas. These represent two forms of desire, what Schopenhauer would have called the will to live and the will to die. Interesting. It's a very interesting thing, actually. Because the way we actually see death and the way we relate to death and the way we think about death plays a huge bearing on how we live our life. Okay? Like, it plays a huge bearing. Like, if you look at the way atheists think about death, for example, right? It's typical. It's like, oh, when I die, it's just blackness for all eternity, and like I never wake up. So the way they relate to death is just have fun, do just accrue material, like earthy sort of shit. Does nothing about it, and you can be kind of even more grotesque, even than some religious people. I almost think it's worse. I think it's worse than religion by actually many metrics. And then you've got other things such as like how the Hindus or even like Incas, like it's reincarnation. It's like, oh, I'll do everything I can and do what's right because I'm gonna die and get reborn anyway. And so there's actually a lot less fear in that mentality of reincarnation, where like your physical body dies but your soul lives on. And then there's like the Abrahamic sort of interpretation, typically in Christianity and Islam, where it's believed you go to heaven or hell, and I think that's usually done out of fear, which is worse because like the idea of eternal damnation or eternal bliss are both seem really, really cruel and unjust because we were talking about the universe is just and it's even. Eternal damnation for like not agreeing with one particular line or whatever the shit is seems absolutely retarded. I can't imagine a just God doing that. But also I can't imagine eternal bliss either when just doing it once in your life. Like, so for anyone who's sort of scared about the idea of eternal damnation or think they're going to get eternal salvation, I think I got news for one. It's good news for one person and it's bad news for another one. Think about that for a second. Anyway, I went on a massive tangent there. Let's keep going. They represent the feminine and masculine impulses. The nobility of the latter is possibly based upon recognition of the futility of the former. This is perhaps why the renunciation of love in all the ordinary senses of the word have been so constantly announced as the first step towards initiation. This is an unnecessarily rigid view. This trump is not only a card in the pack, nor are the will to live and the will to die incompatible. This becomes clear as soon as life and death are understood. CR 213 as phase of a single manifestation of energy. Yeah, well, I've been hearing a lot about Schopenhauer lately, and maybe that's a sign that I should probably start reading into him because I have heard about some of his ideas. So I think that's interesting. Okay. We are now getting to Lon Milo DuQuette's explanation of it, which I think is going to be sufficient to wrap everything up. Break down the fortress of thine individual self, that thy truth may spring free from the ruins. All that simply means is let go of what false beliefs you have about yourself or any proclivities that aren't really yourself to begin with. The house of God appears to me as a vortex, not a mouth, or it is yours, which can't be filled by mortal effort, try as you may. Harris to Crowley, day uncertain. And I think that just simply means the house of God, if it's a vortex, that means we're sort of spiraling upward. And we can only do that, and try as you may, it can't be filled by mortal effort. I think it can work the other way too, where we try to reach a house of God, but it never really happens. Just as the same way, we can't really descend any further into the fucking ground because there seems to be some things that stops us from doing that too. More justice and all that other kind of thing. Anyway, have you ever watched the phases of a large construction project? I know I have. Actually, there's heaps of fucking roadwork everywhere at the moment, man. So that's weird that he sort of said that. But let's continue. In the first phase, the land is cleared by smoke-belching bulldozers. Trees are ruthlessly ripped from their roots. Grass and vegetation is plowed under and raked away. Then cut up or burned, it is a scene of utter destruction and desolation. And if you were to take a photograph of the site at the end of phase 1, you would have a picture of catastrophe. However, in a year or two, the picture changes. Construction has taken place, and now there stands a magnificent building, landscaped with grass and trees and flowers, and perhaps a beautiful little waterfall like with a swan or two. Destruction leads to creation, and sometimes it's not always for the better, right? Like, I can't imagine why you'd want to cut down some beautiful bushland to have some big fucking ugly McDonald's and petrol station. Yuck. But sometimes letting your old self die, which might be grotesque and it can look ugly, I guess. It can look. I think that's the point. Is that destruction, like, of your old self is it's actually an ugly process. There's lots of crying. There's a lot of temper tantrums. There's all kinds of stuff, and you find it difficult to get certain things done. Ask me how I know. It's not fun, man. But that's part of the process. Like, it's really messy. Change is extremely messy, and it's destructive. In more ways than one. It's not just destructive of your ego. It's destructive of, like, normal functions of daily living that you kind of do need still, but it becomes more difficult. Anyway. In the fourth tower, phase 1 is represented by R216, the tower, and the phase 2 is represented by R220, the Aeon. The tower is not the end of the world. It just looks like the end of the world. There you go. It is quite simply what... I'm not hitting puberty, guys. Or I'm still there. I guess as the full-on an eternal adolescent. Anyway, it is quite simply what Crowley calls the manifestation of cosmic energy in its grossest form. The tower is the planetary trump of Mars, and it is incorporate most of the images that characterize traditional versions. A blasted tower of human figures falling from it. Most older versions, however, show the tower being struck by lightning from above, and if by some heavenly wrath, in Harris's vision, the tower is blasted from below by flames belching from the mouth of the underworld. The Hebrew letter Pei means mouth. This is the most significant reverse in symbolic imagery. Another feature unique to the Harris version is the presence of a large eye at the top of the card that seems to radiate a zigzag of lightning or fire that may be the spark that has ignited the flames from the mouth. In the Book of Thoth, this eye, which Crowley refers alternately as the Eye of Horus and the Eye of Shiva, causes him to wax quite philosophic. He even teases us with comments relating to sex magic in the OTO. We just sort of went over that bit, but I'll reread it. And yeah, it was that sort of same, like, homosexual sort of stuff that he was sort of alluding to. There is a special technical magical meaning which is explained openly only to the initiates of the 11th degree of the OTO, a grade so secret that it's not even listed in the official documents. It's not even to be understood by study of the eye in R215. Perhaps it is lawful to mention that the Arab sages and the Persian poets have written not always guardedly on the subject. If all this stuff is so secret, why even bring up the subject? Well, that's actually kind of interesting because the only thing before he gets into that, I think the only reason you would want to bring it up is to sort of entice people to actually discover this yourself. But also at the same time, you can't actually really understand any of this without experience, as it was sort of put into the art card. You need to find shit out through experience, and really experience is the only way you get anywhere. So, including some really negative stuff too. But let's go. This is an extremely narrow and esoteric reference that Crowley knew full well would not be understood or appreciated by the vast majority of readers. Obviously, the eyes refer to the various body openings and the psychic centers to which they are linked. While this is very interesting from a clinical sex magic point of view, it really doesn't help us too much in understanding the general meaning of this trump. The concept of the eye of Shiva, on the other hand, does. The Hindu trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva respectively create, sustain, and destroy the universe. Shiva is the god of destruction, and to destroy the universe, Crowley warns he needs to only open his eye. His eye. I actually want to make a mention of something. Like, we talk about the idea of sex magic all the time, but have you noticed all the weird shit we do around sex that all seem to have some kind of weird esoteric connection to it? My ears just rang, which probably means I'm onto something. That like there's like this weird symbolic connection with fellatio, with 69 and all that other kind of wonderful stuff, right? And homosexuality and tantra. And I think there is something to be noted, like with the mouth and the snake eating its tail, because I think think about it this way. Oh no, guys. I think I just figured something out. So, if you know what the Latin term, what the etymology of the word penis is, it means tail. And the snake is constantly eating his tail. The Ouroboros! That snake is just sucking himself off constantly. Damn. That notion just... Oh my god. It's almost like a cosmic joke, man. It's unreal. And... Oh. Anyway... The Hindu trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva respectively create, sustain, and destroy the universe. Shiva is the god of destruction, and to destroy the universe, created one, he needs to only open his eye. Alright. Shiva is represented as dancing upon the bodies of his devotees. To understand this is not easy for most Western minds. Briefly, the doctrine is that the ultimate reality, which is perfection, is nothingness. Hence, all manifestation, however glorious, however delightful, are stains. To obtain perfection, all existing things must be annihilated. Destruction of self, destruction of society, destruction of culture, destruction of race even. I mean, the human race, not pointing... I'm talking about the human race in general, maybe. Don't hurt me, algorithm, please. Like, it's a different esoteric subject, but you get my drift. The traditional title of the tower is called the House of God, or Destruction of the House of God. In chapter 1, verse 57 of the Book of the Law, the goddess Nuit makes a direct reference. Invoke me under my stars. Love is the law, love and the will. Nor let the fools mistake love, for there are love and love. There is the dove and there is the serpent. Choose ye well. Here my prophet hath chosen knowing the law of the fortress and the great mystery of the house of God. And... probably to build a little bit more on that. The notion of the House of God is how we've sort of done it, and we slowly destroy it over time, or you just constantly smash it to pieces and rebuild it over and over again, like I've done. And that's what it sort of meant when Christ, like after he died, he destroyed the temple of God to be reconstructed and reconstituted in his body. So I'm sort of externalizing that prison that we know as the tower or the house of God even. We break it down, tear it down, and we reconstitute it into something that makes sense or is coherent or to us. So tear down your house of God and ye shall be set free. Everyone? We see the dove and the serpent near the great eye at the top of the card. The dove has an olive branch in its mouth. Crowley describes the image like this. Serpent is portrayed as a lion serpent, Xenubis, or Abraxas. These represent the two forms of desire, what Schopenhauer would have called the will to live and the will to die. They represent the feminine and the masculine impulses. The nobility of the latter is possibly based upon recognition of the futility of the former. This is perhaps why the renunciation of love and all the ordinary senses of the world has been so constantly announced as the first step towards initiation. This is an unnecessarily rigid view. This trump is not only a card in the pack, nor the will to live or the will to die incompatible. Placed in perspective, this is not such a bad card after all. The citizen of the Aeon of Horus is no longer to fear natural process depicted in the tower. When the Duquette's own crown or conquering child, our son, Jean-Paul, was 4 years old, he asked me what will eventually happen to the world. I told him that nobody knows for sure, but that the Hindus worship a god called Shiva who is responsible for destroying the universe. All Shiva has to do is open his eye. I've said, and the universe is completely destroyed. What do you think of that? Without a moment hesitation, he answered. Then he closes his other eye. I'm still thinking about that. Closing his other eye. Opening one eye and closing the other. I think it's just referring to the third eye in general. And I think it's kind of interesting. If you look at the eye of Shiva, generally it looks very vaginal, even, the third eye, in most depictions of the third eye in Hindu sort of artwork. And even other places around the world. So I think that really says a lot. And the fact that the lotus is a bit like the crown where the lotus is. It's sort of the Eastern version of the rose. The rose, the 49 petal rose, like in the Western mystery tradition. Like the Rose of Babylon and the Rosy Cross and that other kind of thing. But yeah, that was quite an interesting one, ladies and gentlemen. I enjoyed that one because I'm certainly having a lot of synchronicity with the tower in general, more than I realized upon doing that. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe to my Substack. Don't be like the Ouroboros, okay? Or do. Maybe you should. Do. You know what? Never mind. See you later.